Hi there. This is Kyle with Auditing with Autism, where I talk about philosophy and sometimes play the guitar and discuss current events. Sometimes I even go out with my camera and do a little auditing. I'm going to do a late night, well, sort of an early evening, late night for me video where the sun's going down, and this is usually when I start making a nest for myself. But I was feeling it, and I thought I'd turn the camera on so I could talk a little bit about a blend. Today, I was thinking, about autism a lot. Been watching a lot of great people, who make great videos. I can name them all, but I could spend the whole video naming them, I guess. But, there's a lot of great autism videos, and I've been thinking a lot about the mind and the brain and how as I learn about autism by watching these videos, I'm learning that the brain, it well, it's been discussed in philosophy for so long that we or philosophers in the past have discovered, I think, autism. I mean, they didn't call it that, but what I'm trying to say is they discovered patterns that one could have that would in the modern world, we would, if you had those patterns, we would call them probably autism. So I just thought I'd share real quick here, just a few minutes, but how our philosophy and our science is blending with, our study of autism and the brain and the mind in general. Uh, there's a there's a quote that I've had for a long time early in the book here. It's by a guy who has a funny name, so I'm not going to say his name because I looked it up on, you know how it goes. You look up a guy's name and he did weird things. So, but listen to what he said. It was pretty beautiful. He said, "Quote: Mind, mind is simply nature feeling her way. Mind is part of nature. It's part of the source, the law that I was talking about in the last video, the law of nature, the law of God, if you will. And then we have the law of man. Those are the three laws. The law of man is completely in flux and would be considered a form, a principle of form. But the law of nature is, it's based on physics, and so it's based on the law of God, but it's also a principle of form because it obviously changes all the time. And the framework is the law of God, where nature is feeling her way. And this author is saying nature created mind to do this feeling. And so another man who's, I must have been reading history because both of these guys are like military historical guys, but I'm going to say the second guy, his name is George Meade. George Meade was a cartographer, a topographical cartographer in the Civil War, well, before the Civil War and during the Civil War. And, his skills were picked up and noticed right away. And he rose to the high rank of general. And he was the sitting general that George Meade, he defeated Robert E. Lee at Gettysburg, if you remember that. Well, he said something interesting, being a map guy uh, and a smart, like a philosopher guy. I wrote his quote down here. He says, quote, a perceptual thing is a combination of at least two characters. A distance character, which leads to movement toward or away from it, and the contact experience, which results. And I'm sure he was thinking about battle movements when he penned that statement. I think I was reading like the autobiography of uh, Grant, General Grant, President Grant. I was interested to see who he was, but unfortunately, his autobiography reads like like a menu or something like that. So, but anyway, so what I'm trying to get at is we got this idea that mind, nature are connected. Nature is part of the universe, and it's developing intelligence inside of the universe as it evolved all of the elements on the elemental table. And who knows, there's maybe more. But these elements, were necessary. I would consider them part of intelligence, the elemental table, because nature became more sophisticated with finesse when we see all the elements spread out before us. And of course, I'm getting to the point that they made it possible for us to see planets evolve and humans eventually. And so humans, we have our mind. That's all thanks to nature, according to this author, and I agree. I think nature is intending some intelligence, in the universe, and we're participating. I think we're the vanguard. I mean, maybe there's more intelligent beings in the universe. I kind of hope so. Aliens and stuff. It'd be fun to find out. But as far as we know, we're on the cutting edge. Me and my dog, we're on the cutting edge. Our brains. So finally, I'm just going to say this. This is what I wrote. I thought about these statements, and so I wrote this idea that connects us again with autism. It's based on this idea that our brains, my autistic brain, our autistic brains, they're different than a neurotypical brain, and not just in by shades of gray. They're significantly. It's a cut and dry line, and so I wanted to point to that line, that autistic line that we are past and on and the spectrum begins, and maybe I thought it would help uh, maybe some neurotypicals to hear about this one. So I wrote. So when I wrote this, I didn't know I had autism. So I wrote it for other reasons, but I'm going to blend it all together. I wrote, it seems possible that the reason a person does not try to always break up every experience into its many individual parts all the time is because the purpose of language or mind is to make things more common. And that seems maybe obvious to some of you guys because they talked about that in school somewhere. I can't remember when, but how old we were when they talked about that. I think it was in high school though, where they explained to us that our eye and our optic nerve in our brain is experiencing each moment in pieces, but our brain, fortunately, smooths it out for us and makes it into like a movie, so we watch reality in whatever it is, 500 frames per second, or what, there's probably a number. And so I just wanted to point out that when you have autism, it allows, and maybe it's just me, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I think it is true with other people who have autism and are autistic, is that we can do this. We can slow it down. We can see the frames. We can see the frames more and better than somebody else, and a neurotypical person. On average, I think we can see the frames better, and that means that we are more sensitive because we can see these frames slowed down. We can hyper focus on the frames. We can we experience those frames more than a neurotypical person. They're not smoothed out as much. It'd be nice maybe sometimes, like when you're in a busy restaurant and everybody's slurping, it would be kind of nice to not have that then. Um, and, other examples like that where we might, I would put my headphones on, even in a restaurant. I'm willing to put my headphones on if I'm eating by myself to not experience maybe some of those slowed, because when you slow those reference frames down enough, it can become bad. I think that's where my obsessive compulsive disorder started to get triggered. It's good to speed them up, if you can try to control it, if you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. But that's it. It was just an interesting idea how, uh, well, these great minds were talking about how Mother Nature is trying to create intelligence, but when we have intelligence, we want to experience it in ways that don't trigger our sensitivities, and you know, it's not the easiest thing to do, but we certainly try. I guess that's all I have to say. Have a great night, you guys. Bye bye. Love y'all.